This is an aerial photo of a rotten-tailed townhouse complex in northeastern China. It has been under construction for several years due to cash flow problems and is suspended construction. It's a snapshot of China's real estate industry. The real estate industry has become a massive, ticking time bomb for China's economy. According to a recent report by Numera Securities on November 15, 2023, by the end of 2022, China had about 20 million unfinished presale homes, which is nearly 20 times the number of unfinished presale homes of the developer Country Garden. China's official data show that from January to October 2023, the area of China's real estate sales fell by 7.8% year-on-year, a significant decline rate. The real estate development and investment fell even more sharply, plunging by 9.3% year-on-year in the first 10 months of 2023. And the area of new housing construction has been shrinking rapidly, with year-on-year declines of as much as 23.2%. But Chinese officials claimed it to be an adjustment phase amid a transitional period.
From January to October, the national real estate development investment saw a year-on-year decrease of 9.3%. Notably, the decline expanded by 0.2 percentage points compared to the period from January to September. During the same period, the sales by floor area of commercial housing decreased by 7.8%, and the sales revenue of commercial housing dropped by 4.9%. Based on these figures, it is evident that the real estate market is still undergoing an adjustment phase amid a transitional period.
Real estate developers have been facing a capital crisis since 2020, when the Chinese authorities introduced the Three Red Lines financial policy. As a result, since the summer of 2020, Chinese developers have suffered from a series of debt meltdowns that have led to unfinished properties and a sharp decline in real estate investment, home sales, and new construction. This has been compounded by the epidemic lockdowns in 2022, making construction even more difficult. According to analysts at Nomura, assuming a 20% increase in new home completions this year, developers will only be able to deliver 48% of the homes pre-sold between 2015 and 2020, with the remaining 52% of pre-sales still subject to delays. Therefore, Nomura Securities chief China economist analyzed, "We estimate that there are about 20 million unfinished and delayed homes, and it will take about 3.2 trillion yuan or US 440 billion to finish these homes." The report suggests that sometime next year, the delivery of homes could turn into a social problem that could jeopardize social stability, and that Beijing may ultimately need to dramatically expand its policy support in order to truly restore confidence in China's real estate sector and economy. China has adopted a peculiar system of selling homes. That is, while homes are still on the drawing board, buyers have to take out a mortgage, make a down payment, and buy the home in full. In other words, before homeowners get their homes, they are already in debt to the bank. As a result, when a property fails to deliver, the homeowner is faced with a lifelong nightmare.
We have to pay 5,000 yuan or $700 a month on the mortgage. Working class people like us can only make about 4,000 yuan a month, and we have to raise our children. For us individuals, we literally don't have the courage to go on anymore.
对于我个人来说的话，真的没有活下去的勇气了。这全还呢！现在一家4口，我租个房子是2500，我还要还6500，我一个月需要还8000块钱。领导们，我老百姓一个挣8000，我容易吗？我一个工资我得7000，我媳妇工资才4000多，我剩下的钱我都不敢生病，我有病都不敢看，我真是不是说我不穷，我有病都不敢看呢。先给我们停贷，然后给我们盖房，我们拿的是全款现金，我到超市去买瓶水。1块钱，我给他们1块钱，他说拿瓶水，他不给我水，我报警，警察是不是说的是？我150万，我买套房子，他不给我换，他就躺平了，他就没事了。然后我上街，我就是暴徒，有天理没有？我喝点酒，你说有没有天理？ 我姑娘也说我是坏人，我哪是坏人了？我也不想走上街头，我也不想成为，我就想拿150万买个房子，我把钱给你，你把房子给我，买个税，我给你钱，你把税给我，我是合法的公民啊，有错吗？你们理由那么多，我的钱谁拿走了？我们是全还的。就是停贷这事情，咱们领导能不能帮我们这么多2万多个群众，给我们缓一缓。
The Chinese government is also afraid of a situation where a large number of properties will fail to deliver, but as of now, they have no solution either. In late August 2022, Chinese media outlet Caixin reported that the CCP had initiated a loan program that's worth 200 billion yuan, or US 2.6 billion. It was to guarantee delivery of properties. This special loan was guided by China's central bank and arranged by the China Development Bank and the Agricultural Development Bank of China from their existing loan quota. The Export-Import Bank of China is supposed to join the program later as well. The central government will subsidize those banks with the interest rate of 1% according to the actual lending amount for a period of no more than 2 years. At the time, however, Reuters news agency said that some state-owned banks and asset management companies were pushing back on official calls to bail out real estate companies, and even continued to reduce their holdings of real estate bonds for fear that their own balance sheets would be affected. The Reuters report, citing 7 sources, said that in the absence of clear support from Beijing, executives at some institutions were wary of approaching cash-strapped real estate firms, fearing that cooperation could incur losses. Other real estate sources said official guarantees do not always translate into more bank funds, and at present it's already difficult to find buyers for bond issues. The fact proves that the CCP wants to save the Rottentail projects being built, but the mess has already reached a scale of several trillion RMB. The 200 billion that the CCP has arranged for is just a drop in the bucket. Some of the homeowners of these Rottentail buildings have been forced to move into these buildings and start living there without water, electricity, and wind leaking from all sides. Many people may wonder why Chinese people have to purchase pre-sold homes. That was because the price of housing in China was very high in the last 20 years or so. Usually, there were no newly built apartments for sale on the market. If there were a few such apartments, the price was much higher than the pre-sale price, which is already high for many. In China, there are many pitfalls for home buyers in an unregulated market. Here is a peculiar case from Shenzhen.
The deepest pitfalls on the road to buying a home are hard to avoid by ordinary people. This unfinished building used to have a great reputation. Its name is China Tiangu. At the time, it was considered a major project in Shenzhen. It was said to be worth over 100 billion yuan after being built. It was boasted to be the next Nanshan Science and Technology Park, but it's obviously an industrial park. How come it has homes to sell? The dormitories in the Industrial Development and Research Park are obviously only available to employees of the businesses, but they were packaged into apartments with no restrictions on purchase and occupancy. What if you were an individual and ineligible? The other party would help you register a company and provide a one-stop service. Ordinary people can't tell what's a real apartment and what's fake. The price was so attractive. With a unit price of more than 30,000 yuan per square meter, one could buy a new apartment in such a popular area. The lowest total price was just over 1 million yuan, or about $140,000. Those migrant workers in Shenzhen, who had never been able to afford their own homes, seemed to have seen hope. There were young people who emptied pockets of their own, their grandparents and parents, to collect enough for the down payment. There were divorced people with children. As a single mother, I bet on the savings accumulated over many years of working from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., working 6 days a week. On June 30th, 2021, it was supposed to be a day when homeowners were happy and ready to take over the homes. However, the more than 600 owners discovered that the construction of the property had been suspended for 2 years. What's even more frightening is that the developer's capital chain has long been broken and is facing bankruptcy liquidation. He used 2 billion yuan of funds and through constant leverage resulted in 14 billion yuan of debt. It was only on that day that these owners discovered that they had been led step by step into a deep pit. The second pitfall is in the companies registered by the developer for the buyers. Because they can only buy in the name of a company, these 600-odd owners have all become legal entities of shell companies. In fact, before the release of these homes in 2019, when the first batch of homes was released, these homeowners were also asked to sign a transfer purchase agreement. Part of the home purchase loans became transfer fees and went into the account of another company. In 2020, the company defaulted on its debt, and more than 300 homes were seized. The company then sold the remaining homes to another company that it had registered itself. So after that, the sales of the homes was done by way of equity transfer. Even the buyers who had previously bought the seized homes were guided to make the switch. They weren't buying homes, but the shares of the company that owned the homes. The money generated from the transactions during this period didn't go into a supervisory account in a bank.
Faced with the prospect of a rotten-tailed building, many home buyers are unable to afford the mortgage and are forced to suspend it. As a result, they become delinquent credit holders. According to China's law, those with bad credit can't get on highways or buy flight tickets. They can't buy soft sleepers or seats in the second class or above in ships. They can't buy first-class seats in trains either. They can't buy cars or stay in hotels and inns with star ratings. They can't apply for credit cards or take out loans. Their children can't go to private schools and their pensions will be deducted. And there is a potential maximum prison time of 7 years. It sounds harsh and scary, doesn't it? But that won't stop waves of defaulters. Perhaps the number of defaulters is growing too fast, too much to the detriment of the reputation of this red country. The data of defaulters on the China Enforcement Information Public Network is found to have stopped at 8,496,425 on November 6, 2023. According to the nation's 7th population census, 1 in every 100 of China's working-age population between the ages of 15 and 59 is now a defaulter judged by court. This is a retouched figure based on which it is estimated that there are more than 10 million people in China who have bad credit with a court order. In addition to defaulted mortgages caused by rotten-tailed buildings, China's real economy has been hit hard, with a large number of enterprises closing down and people losing their jobs as a result of the 3-year epidemic lockdown and restrictive policy implemented by the Beijing government. According to statistics, during the 3 years of the epidemic lockdown, the number of defaulters judged by the court increased by at least 2.28 million. Since 2023, there has been a surge in the number of executed individuals made public by Chinese courts. Videos posted by Chinese netizens on social media platforms shows government agencies around China have disclosed the personal information of the executed individuals by local courts through LED outdoor billboards. Courts make the personal information of the executed individuals public, including their headshots, addresses, and identity cards. Some courts even spread the information through vehicle-mounted LED screens and radio broadcasts in the community, attracting crowds of people. It's been described by many as a public parade of those who have lost credit. According to the previous data disclosed by Chinese courts from July 13th to September 25th, 2023, which is about 72 days, the number of defaulters nationwide increased from 8.3 million to 8.44 million. It was an increase of more than 140,000 cases, or an average increase of about 2,000 cases per day. This is only referring to the number of defendants involved after the plaintiff went to court and the court ruled the defendant guilty, but the defendant didn't have the money to comply with the court order. If you count the number of people who have borrowed money from relatives and friends but are unable to repay, that is, defaulted debtors outside of the judicial system, the number will rise quite a bit. So what do Chinese people think of the fact that 1 out of every 100 people suffers from bad credit? They write excitedly, "When everyone defaults, it means nobody defaults." On the Jihu website, under a question that has now been deleted, an answer received over 12,000 likes. There would have been more if the question hadn't been deleted. The answer reads, "It means checking the credit history is pointless now. To be honest, 5 years ago, when dealing with a strange company, I had to look up its credit history. Now, which company doesn't have several credit risk warnings? How many board members, directors, and senior executives aren't defaulters? They are embarrassed to say hello to others. When you try to do business with them, they'll tell you out front that you will go to meet them. It's not that they are arrogant, but they can't fly due to poor credit. If everyone has bad credit, it means nobody has bad credit." Others commented, "If over 10 million people have been put on bad credit list, it's like they have created a group of third-class citizens, since average Chinese are treated like second-class citizens in their own country anyway. Plus, there are fourth-class citizens who are politically persecuted and held hostage by the stability control organs. It's as if China is going to create a caste system with Chinese characteristics, right?" Some people have already predicted that with the increase in the number of Chinese people who have lost their creditworthiness, China's high-speed rail and airplane industries will be further depressed. It's not for nothing that the Chinese are optimistic about bad credit, as the number of people with bad credit will only accelerate in the future. In November, the Chinese government issued several notices urging governments at all levels to tighten their belts and prepare for a long period of tight days. Many places in China began a large-scale review of the non-staffing workforce in government-affiliated institutions and organizations. The non-staffing and staffing personnel are closely linked, and after eliminating non-staffing positions, the staffing positions are likely the next to be downsized. It is conceivable that many non-staff personnel who are saddled with mortgages and car loans would be in financial difficulties after losing their jobs. The emergence of crowds with bad credit will also worsen China's economic performance. For example, most people who have been restricted in banking activities due to bad credit are business people in need of frequent financial transactions. As they aren't eligible for bank loans anymore, they are likely to become delinquent debtors again, which will ultimately hinder the economic operations, creating a vicious cycle.